Hi, today we are going to be crocheting a Minecraft Allay. This is a pretty simplified pattern, so beginners should be able to make it relatively easily. There are just a few stitches that aren't commonplace unless you do a lot of amigurumi. So what you'll need is a base color that will be the color of your whole Allay, some white yarn for the eyes, some stuffing. I prefer polyfill just because it's easier to shape with, a 2mm hook, a 4mm hook, and a pair of scissors. Alright, to get started, you want to get your base color and your 4mm hook, and we are going to be making a magic circle. So wrap around 2 times. Go under the first one, over, twist, and then you want to get this top thread that goes back to the skein of yarn. And you want to twist again and pull it under that loop. And now we have our magic circle. So you want to go into what's left on your fingers, hold it so it doesn't come apart on you, and now you can get back into the nice position that you usually do when you crochet. So, we want to make 8 stitches into this magic circle. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now what we want to do is pull it closed and tie at least 2 to 3 knots, just to make sure it doesn't come loose. Alright, now we are going to be working on the second round. This is where we take this circle shape and make it into a more square shape. So to do that, we are going to start off with a single crochet. And then in this next stitch will be our corner stitch. So we are going to be doing a triple increase. So instead of just doing an increase, you will add a 3rd stitch into that loop. So you have 3 stitches in that 1 stitch. And that's how you will create your corner. And we're going to do this 3 more times as we go around. So for the next one, a single crochet, and then after that, a triple increase. And that's our second corner. And again, we'll do a single crochet and a triple increase. That's our third corner. And once more. There. Now you can already tell it's went from a circle to more of a square shape, and we will just be building off of this until we get the whole top of the head. So to do that, we'll be going in to each stitch and doing a single crochet, except for these corner pieces in that middle stitch in our triple increase. We will be doing another triple increase just to make sure we're expanding it. So in this third round, we're going to do 2 single crochets, a triple increase, and then we'll be doing 3 single crochets, and then another triple increase, and 3 more single crochets, then another triple increase, then 3 more single crochets, and then finally our last triple increase for this round. Okay. And now right here will be our last stitch of the round. As you can see, we aren't starting off with a triple increase, so our split between rounds is going to be in the middle. And I like having that way it can be all the way in the back, and then we can have the face and everything on this side. Right, and now we're just going to keep expanding it for 2 more rounds. So we'll do 3 single crochets, triple increase, and then we'll do 5 single crochets, then another triple increase, then 5 single crochets, then our third triple increase, then 5 more single crochets, then our last triple increase, and then where we ended off the last round with 1 single crochet, we're going to end this one off with 2 single crochets, just so we're keeping it nice and balanced. Alright, and now we just have to expand this square for 1 more round, and then we can start working down. So now we're going to be doing 4 single crochets, our triple increase in this corner stitch, and that will be 7 single crochets across here, so we'll want to have 7 in between each corner stitch. So you can kind of get the pattern by now. Every time we increase it, there will be 2 extra stitches in between the corner stitches, and that's just because we're doing single crochets in these stitches where the corners were. So each round we're adding a total of 8 stitches. Alright, and then we're going to end this round off with 3 single crochets. So your square should be nice and square. And you should have 7 single crochets in between each corner stitch. That will give us this piece, this top piece. Now we're going to be working down across the head, and to do that we are going to be doing the back loops only for this next round. This helps it curve to the side a bit more. Okay, so for this round we're just going to be doing single crochets all the way around. No increases, no decreases, nothing like that. But we are going to be going into the back loops only. And as you can see, we're getting that little outline right there, and that is going to help us kind of split this off and let it go sideways instead of having that more rounded curve. And we can adjust that a little bit more with the stuffing later on. Alright, and we're coming up on the end here. So we'll go into this last one right here. And now for our remaining rounds, we are going to be going in both loops. So right here's the outline, and we'll be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 before we start going back to make the whole box shape. So for the next 8 rounds, we're just going to be doing single crochets all the way around in both loops. Okay, so now that we are done with our 9 rounds, we are going to stop right here and take some time to do the eyeballs, because I think it's easier to cross stitch it when it doesn't have stuffing inside. And I like to have at least about 5 wraparounds of my fingers, and you'll want to do that for each eye just to make sure you have enough yarn. And this is where our 2mm hook comes in. So, with our white yarn, right here, like I said earlier, is going to be the back where we have this little stitch separation here. So we want our eyes to be in the front. Now, when I'm doing the eyes, I want to kind of measure out 3 down and 2 up, and you want to kind of have it going 2 by 4 with a 2 by 4 in the middle as a separation. So we want to go 2 from the bottom, and you can kind of measure out with your fingers just to find the edges, kind of make the edges a bit more distinctive. Then I'm thinking these two, and these two. And so those stitches look pretty in the middle to me, so that's what I'm going to go with. So we're going to go right into these 2 stitches. And we are going to take our yarn and pull it out a little bit. And we want to make our outline first, that way we know where we're cross stitching into. So we've made our 2 across, and now we want to go 4 up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you don't want to go by the stitches specifically just because they are tilted a little. You want to go as geometrically straight as possible. So instead of going in here, we're going to go in here because that lines up better. Going to take our yarn and we are going to pull it through here, and that makes a nice little line, and we're just going to go back in through here and do the same thing, and that gives us an X. Now we're probably going to make around like 10 to 12 X's just to make sure this whole square is filled up properly. And do take the time to kind of stretch it out a little bit and separate it, because the more X's you do, the more bulky it's going to get. So you kind of have to find the balance between filling it up right and not filling it up so much that it's like extended like half an inch out from the body. We don't want our little Allay to have bulging eyes. Okay, I think just a couple more ought to do it. Okay, when you think that you have enough X's, you want to do the rectangle around the outline. So I'm just going to go right here along the outline. That makes that line down here on the bottom. We're going to do the same thing on this side. And now we're going to go back up so we can get these sides. Okay. Alright, now I still have a little bit of a gap right here, so we're going to do a few more X's just to fill it in. And I think one more ought to do it. Alright, that looks pretty decent to me. So now that that's done, we are going to pull these inside of our allay. And we are going to tie these ends together. That way our eyes don't come loose. I prefer this method to crocheting eyes and sewing them on just because I like this look better. And I think you can get it a bit more accurate, and then if you try to crochet a piece and sew it, there's always the possibility that it's going to have little holes in it. And what I'm doing right now is just kind of pulling on these to try to make it a bit tighter in the front. So we have like a few loose ones here and there, but pulling on the back of them will kind of tighten them to the stitches. And there's one eye. And when we stuff this, this will help it as well. Alright, so for our next one, we want to skip 2 stitches and go in here. So we'll have 2 stitches and then another 2 stitches. That way we kind of have like an eye apart, if that makes sense. So we're going to do the same thing that we did from the other one. And you can trim these if they are getting in your way. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing we did earlier, is trying to find the geometric spacing. And it kind of helps too where we already did this one eye, because it will be 2 apart in the bottom and 2 apart in the front. And now we just fill it in with a bunch of X's. Okay, so now we have both of our eyes in, so we can continue crocheting. So we'll get our 4mm hook back out, and this round is when we are going to start decreasing and closing off this square. So we want to go into the back loops just like we did to get that outline. If I can try to pull these wings back, we'll go around, and just like we did the triple increase up here, we're going to do a triple decrease down here. So it's just like the complete opposite of what we started with. So you want to go into the back. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it doesn't have to line up exactly because our separation was 4 and 3. But instead I'm doing 5 and 2 on this one, and that's because, like I said, the stitches don't line up. They kind of curve over to the side as you go in rounds. But I prefer doing it rounds like this continuously, just because we have 1 and 2 splits instead of several splits going all the way down here. I think it just gives a much cleaner look. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go by our corner and try to draw a line. So where this was our corner, this is going to be our corner. So we're going to mark out these 3 that are going to be in our triple decrease. So actually, instead of 5, I'm going to do another one. And this can all depend. You can change around the number of single crochets you do before you do that decrease, because you want to try to get the corners to match up as close as possible. That way you can have that square shape and it doesn't look like one corner's here and one corner's over here. You just want it to line up nice. So for our triple decrease, we'll go into each stitch and pull a thread through, and you'll have 4 loops on your hook, and we'll just go through all 4 of those, and that will make a triple decrease. Now once you have your first corner down, you can start following the pattern of having 7 stitches in between each corner, because once this part's line up, the rest of it will line up. So we'll go into our back loops and we'll do 7 single crochets. And then we're going to do another triple decrease, just getting all 3 of those, and then pulling through all the loops on our hook. And as you can see, it's lined up near perfectly. So again, we'll do this a few more times. We'll do 7 single crochets. Then a triple decrease. Then 7 more single crochets. Alright, and since we did 6 single crochets right here, we're going to finish it off with 1 single crochet. You should be able to tell, no matter how many single crochets you did in the beginning, how many you need to do at the end, because you can tell quite easily right here is going to be your last stitch of the round. Okay, and now we are going to decrease this a few more times. We aren't going to completely close the head though, because we do want to kind of work the body off of it, just so you minimize the sewing that you have to do and it looks like it connects better. So we're going to keep decreasing it, so we'll have 7 in between here, 5 in between here, and 3 in between here before we start going in rounds to make the body. So 2 more times. And we can go through both loops now, not just the back loops. So where I did 6 here, we are going to do 5. And then we have our corner stitch right here, and we're going to get that and then the 2 beside it. So 1, 2, 3, pull through all those loops to make another triple decrease. Then we'll do 5, then another triple decrease, then 5, another triple decrease, our final triple decrease, and this will actually end the round because it takes up that last stitch around the corner. So for our next one, we are going to be doing 3 and then a triple decrease. Never mind, I'm lying. We're going to be doing 4. This one back half always gets a little bit confusing just because you're changing in between rounds, but you're also having to prioritize the corners over the placement of the round. So it's not precise. It's not nice and neat. It overlaps. But these other ones, you will have 3 in between each corner stitch. And you will have 3 in between the corners on that back portion too, once we finish off this round. Okay, and here's where it gets a little bit confusing because we are taking these 3 stitches for our corner, but this stitch is actually the beginning of our last round. So like I said, it overlaps a little bit, but we're prioritizing the corners. Okay, so now that we've done that, we want to take a moment and stuff the head and shape it so it's more like a square. So how I like to do that is stuffing the middle first, so we have a nice base to work off of. And you want to make sure not to overstuff it. I overstuffed the blue one a little bit, and you can tell what happened. It kind of extended off of this a bit more than I wanted it to. So for this one, we're not going to stuff as much. So now that we've got that done, we are going to take a little bit and we are going to slide our finger right along that corner up to that increase. And we'll put a little bit more just so it holds its shape, and you can already tell that's how it's going to make our corners look sharper. And we will just do that on all the corners. You can also use yarn scraps to make them more stiff if you have a bit of trouble shaping the corners. I find that yarn scraps are more firm and they hold better than this polyfill. But I don't have that much yarn scrap on hand, so we're just using the polyfill. Okay, and now we just want to make sure our eyes are nice and shaped, and then you can kind of just squeeze it into a square shape. So what I'm doing is just trying to make the eyes look like they're a little bit more in the center. Like I said, these stitches do not line up where they kind of shoot to the side. But we are going to do our best, and it will look cute either way. Okay, so we're not going to overstuff it, but you do want to stuff it enough to where those corners are more prominent, just to give it that nice square shape. And once you're satisfied, we can start moving on to the body. So the body is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8 rounds off of this decrease round. So we're not going to be decreasing, we're not going to be doing the back loops, we're just going to be going in circles. So this side does look a little bit rounded, but you can fix that with stuffing. It's not going to be perfectly square, just the nature of crocheting. It isn't going to be square no matter how hard you try unless you put plastic or wire in it. But we're just going for as close as possible. And I also don't use stitch markers. I feel like they get in the way. I hate taking them and putting them back in. So I just count all of my stitches from the rounds. And I will show you how to do that later on. That way you don't have to put in a stitch marker. Because like I said, the stitch markers kind of become useless right around here because it overlaps. So we're just going to say that this corner stitch is our last stitch of the round. So this single crochet right here can be your new start of the round. So we did one more, so we just got to do 7 more. We'll just keep going round and round in circles until we have a nice body. Okay, so now that we've done 8 rounds, we can start closing this up. And the way I counted that is by going, here is our start of the round. So we'll go 2, 4, 6, 8. I actually need to get rid of this one right here. There, now it's 8 rounds. Because this was our last stitch of the round, so just count up 2, 4, 6, 8 and follow this stitch line. But now that we've got this done, we're going to close it off. I didn't want to leave this open to do the little ghosty flill thingies, because then you're just going to see all the stuffing in there and you can like stick your fingers in. I mean, it'd be great if you wanted to do a little finger puppet, but we're not doing that. So just like we started to close this up, we're just going to continue that with this. So we had 3 in between each corner here, so we're going to have 1 stitch in between each corner here. But, like I said, we're working on this side now, which is not this side, how it was initially, but our little ghosty things are going to hopefully cover that up. And I mean, you shouldn't really be turning your Allay over upside down to look at it anyway, so it should be fine. So we're going to look from our corner stitch right here, and it looks like it's right in the middle, but we're gonna say it's this stitch right here. So we're going to do the 2 beside it, and that actually ends up being our next stitch. So, just like we did for this, we're going to go in the back loops only for this round. So we're going to do our triple decrease to create that corner, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet, and then another triple decrease. And 1 single crochet, then a 3rd triple decrease. And before we do the final one, we're going to take a moment and stuff this body. We're just going to lightly stuff it in the middle. Now this is going to be a bit harder just because it is a lot skinnier, but you can still go along those edges. It won't make much of a difference because we're going to be having the arms and the wings, and that's going to kind of distort the shape anyway, but we can still do our best. Every little detail counts. Okay, this corner didn't stick very well. This one. Okay. And I'm just gonna plug the top. Remember, don't overstuff it. When you overstuff it, it starts to lose its shape a bit more, and you run the risk of being able to see your stuffing in between your stitches, and you don't want that. I crochet pretty tightly, so I don't have that problem unless I overstuff. You just want to kind of plug that up in there, and you can squeeze this part a little bit to try to help make it square. Make sure that stuffing doesn't pop out on you. Okay, and now we're going to finish this round off. So we'll do one more single crochet, and then another triple decrease. And then a final single crochet. And I always like to close off my work with a slip stitch. And then we'll cut off right about here. And we'll take our 2mm and we're going to go in this stitch and out. Pull it through. Then 2 away from it, go in and then out. Pull it through. 2 away, in, out, and then again, in, out. Okay, and then you can just pull through any random stitch, not too far away, but just in a space that's easier to stuff back in. You just want to pull tight, not tight enough to snap, but tight so you can do a knot. And you want to do at least 3. And try to keep pulling on it so that doesn't get sucked back in, because you don't want like 3 knots going down. You want a big knot. Like that. And see, it's already trying to pull itself back in. And we will help it by pushing it in with these scissors. But you want to be careful, especially if your scissors are sharp and not dull, because you could accidentally cut your stitches, and then you're going to have to unravel and fix it. You don't want to do that because we already worked so hard to close it. So just be very gentle when you're stuffing it back in. This also acts as a little extra bit of stuffing as well. Another reason not to overstuff it. And then just push it down. Then we'll shape that a little bit. Now all that stuffing right through here wants to kind of connect. So we want to kind of cinch it and make it more separate. So kind of just push up on this head, shape the head. It's like a little hammer. Okay, so the remaining 4 pieces we have to make, we will be sewing onto our Allay, so we can go ahead and put the body to the side. I'm going to be working on the arms next because they are a lot easier than these winged monstrosities. These arms, we are going to just be using a circle and going down because you can't hardly tell. I tried doing a square and then going around, but it was so small, you just can't tell. And just doing it by a circle is easier anyway. And this way you can have a little bit more motion with it. So we're going to be doing circles to start off the arms. So we're going to be making another magic circle, wrap around twice, go under, over, twist, grab the length that goes back to the skein, and twist and go back under. And we're going to be making 8 single crochets in this. Then we will pull that closed and put a few knots on the end so it doesn't come loose. Now, for these arms, the way we're going to be doing it is going to be 2, 4, 6 rows, and then this final row is just stitches that connect. So we're going to have 8 stitches around, but we're going to use 4 single crochets to close it up. Because I like that better than just sewing it at the top. I think it makes it more sturdy and gives more range of motion. So this, we're going to be keeping 8 around all the way, so we don't have to do any increases, no decreases. I may have made that a bit too tight. There it goes. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, this is a bit harder to tell the stitches without a stitch marker. You just kind of have to look at how this is going into a circle, and this is the first stitch that looks like it's stacking on top of that first round. But you can also just count it. It's just going to be 5 more rounds of this. Okay, now that you have 7 rounds, we are going to be stopping and getting a little bit of stuffing. Now, I don't want to overstuff this just because I think it makes it look really chunky, so you just want to put a little bit right in the end here. I mean, like, just a tiny little bit. Just push it down, and you want to be able to squeeze it halfway. So like right there. Okay. And you can add or remove a bit of stuffing just to your preference, but I think right around here is good for me. So now you want to get your hook, and we are going to be connecting this with 4 single crochets. So we're going to go into our next stitch, and we're going to pull this all the way back and go into this stitch right here. That way we have, you can kind of see how it's lined up now. We have 1, and then this would be 2, that be 3, and then this last one be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is closed really good, but it's also a bit thin, that way we have more movement. Then just do a little chain, snip it, and there is one of our arms, and we are just going to be making one more and then we'll move on to the wings. Okay, once you have both of your little arms, we are going to get started on the wings. Now, this looks very complicated, but it's just a series of chains, do a few stitches, do a few more chains, do a few stitches, just doing that over and over to kind of give it that diagonal shape. So it looks a bit complicated. I promise it's not that hard. It's just a lot of counting. So for this, we're going to leave a bit of a tail so we can sew with later. And we are going to make a slip knot. And we are going to chain 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, and we are going to be working on the back on these little bumps right here. See, 1, 2, 3, those little things. So we're going to leave these front 2 alone. We're just working in these back ones. Okay, so first we're going to skip this one, and we're going to work into this one. We're going to do a half double crochet, so wrap around, go through that 1 loop, and pull through all 3. We're going to make 5 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so here is where we're going to make the first branch. So we're going to chain 6, and you kind of want this first one right here to be a bit tight. Whenever I make it, it tends to be a bit loose, so make sure this first one's nice and tight, because you don't want a big giant loop, because then you're going to have a hole in there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, we're going to skip this first one, and on these little branches, I'm just doing single crochets instead of half double, because I don't want them to be as thick, because they're already going to be thick. So we're going to go into the second one, do a single crochet, we're going to go in again and do another single crochet, and now we're going to start making that diagonal shape. So to do that, we're going to chain 3, and again make your first one a bit tight. 2, 3, we're going to skip that first one. I'm going to go into this second one and do a single crochet, and then do another single crochet in this one. And this part is a little bit more complicated. So if you just go into this stitch, you're going to have a hole right here in the middle, and we don't want that. So instead of doing a traditional half double crochet, we're going to kind of do a decrease in a sense, just to kind of connect those, but it's going to look like a half double crochet. So right here in our stitch right here, we're going to have those top 2 loops right there, 1 and 2, and we're going to go through those. So I just go through one at a time to make sure I'm not picking up anything extra. Then we're going to pull through, and then we're going to go into this next one that we were going to go into. Pull through, And then we have 3 loops on our hook, just like we would with a half double, and we're just going to pull through all 3 of those. See, it kind of looks like a half double, but it's closed up right here and just makes it more scrunched up. So we're going to go into this next one with a single crochet, and we're going to do another branch like this one. So we're going to do 3 chains, skip the first one, go into the second one with a single crochet, do the next one as a single crochet, and then same thing, we're going to do a decrease, but it's going to look like a half double. So go through these top 2 loops right through here, pull a loop through, and make sure you're not going into this loop right here. That is a chain that we've already put a stitch into. You want to go into this next one and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, and just like we did for this, we're going to do the same thing here just to make sure it looks like it's nice and connected. So this one, I'm gonna make sure we're not going into this stitch or that stitch, or I guess they're chains. We want to go into this half double. So just keep a keen eye out for all those different threads of your stitches. This is why I chose to use a lighter color, because darker colors are a bit more difficult to see without light. Okay, so once you're in there, we're going to go into our next chain and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, and that takes care of our first branch. So we're just going to do 1 more of those on this wing. Before that, we're going to do 5 more half double crochets. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're just going to repeat what we did with this one. So we're going to chain 6, skip that first one and do a single crochet into the next 2 chains. 1 and 2, and we're going to chain 3, skip the first one and do single crochet, do another single crochet, and then a decrease that looks like a half double crochet. Then we're going to do another single crochet, then 1, 2, 3 chains, then 2 single crochets, and a decrease that looks like a half double. Well, if I can grab onto that thread. And we're gonna do another decrease. Okay, and then we'll just do 3 more half double crochets. It's wanting to fray on me. and just do a little chain to close it off. Okay, now you can kind of set it down and stretch it a little bit, and that'll have our wing with our little branches on it. And this was the only way I could kind of get that diagonal pixel shape. And I think it looks cute. So we're gonna do one more of these, and then that will be all the pieces we need to make, and we can start sewing. So just like we did before, we're going to leave a nice long tail for sewing, then chain 16. Okay, then we're going to skip that first one and go into the second one with a half double and do 4 more half double crochets. Then we're going to chain 3, or 6. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets, and then chain 3. And do 2 more single crochets. And then a decrease that looks like a half double while going into these stitches from our single crochet. And into our next chain. Just pull through all 3 of those loops. Now we'll go and do single crochet in the next one, then chain 3. Same thing, 2 single crochets, and then a decrease. Up. Yeah, try not to go across the whole entire stitch. You kind of want to get right in the middle of the stitch with those 2 threads. And go into the next chain. Decrease, and then same thing here. Go into those top 2 threads, and the next chain, and do a decrease. Okay, now we're going to be doing 5 more double crochets. Then chain 6, and skip the first one and do 2 single crochets, chain 3, and 2 single crochets, and then a decrease. Then another single crochet, chain 3, 2 single crochets, then a decrease, and and another decrease. And then 3 more half double crochets. Then one more chain just to close it off. And we are done! The second wing. And these are all the pieces that we have to crochet, so now it's just sewing. Alright, I'm going to put the arms on first. So we'll get our little allay back up here, turn it on its side, and we want to count out 4 stitches right through here. So I am going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4. And then when I'm sewing through this one, I just go ahead and go through that first stitch and pull the thread through. Now I want to go into the second one, pull it through, go through here, through that third stitch, pull it through, and pull it through that fourth stitch. Okay. And right here, that last hole we went into, we're going to go right here on the side and just pull this through so it's nice and tight. Then we're going to go back into that same hole and we're going to go right back into that stitch we sewed into and pull a loop. But you want to kind of keep your finger here to keep it from going all the way through. We're going to go through that loop and pull this through to make a knot. Then we're going to make another knot. And one more just to be safe. I like being very cautious when I sew just so they don't come off. And now we'll just take our scissors and we'll gently stuff this back into that stitch hole. Just be very gentle when you're doing this, because if you accidentally cut a stitch, then you're going to have to take so much apart. We've spent so long getting to this point. So caution is key. Okay. There's one arm. Now we'll flip it to the other side and do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go through this one. Go to the second stitch. Cohen, stop. Cohen! You're okay. You can handle being alone for like 15 more minutes while I finish sewing this. Okay? Okay? Little heathen child. Cohen. Cohen. Calm your butt down. Hush. Hush. Quit it. I see your nose. You ain't thinking you're gonna get under that door, are you? Okay, now to do the wings. So we'll get our first one, and we want these branches to be facing down. We'll just find the middle of the back. And I'm gonna go, so there's 1, 2 holes, so I'm gonna go into the second one, go here and go up, and then go through that first one. Then go like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Go through that second one, go through the first one. Okay. There it goes. And I'm just gonna do the exact same thing, just pull it through again. And then I'm gonna go through this hole and go through this bottom one and pull it through, just so these ends are on the same side and the same hole. Then I'm gonna tie a double knot. This way it doesn't come loose. And just gently stuff that back in there. Cohen, stop! Cohen, quit! You heathen child! Cohen! I'm gonna have to mute so much of this because of you. Okay, now that that one's done, we're gonna do the other one. And it's the same thing, just the opposite way. But we do want to go as close as we can, that way they look like they're connected. Just gonna go through this first one. Oh, I only got one part of it. Sewing is my least favorite part, so when I'm making patterns, I do my absolute best to make sure there's as minimal sewing as possible, because this whole part is irritating. Okay. And now we'll just bring them down here because you can have better access down here. We'll just pull both of these threads into this second hole down here. Okay, now we'll double knot this. Just gently stuff all this in there. Okay. Now it's the final touch. We need to add the little ghosty swoops. So we're going to get our yarn and we're just going to go back into this and start working on it. And I'll probably burn the fuzz off of this afterwards as well. Okay, so to start this off, I just pulled a loop through this right here, and we're going to do a chain. Then we're going to do a half double crochet in that same loop. Okay, and then we're going to do a double crochet in this next one, and then a triple in the next one, and then a double, and then a half double, and a slip stitch. Then we're going to go and start the whole arc over again with a half double. Then a double. Just try to keep this tail in between it, that way it hides it. That way we don't have to tie it and then stick it back into the body. This kind of just saves us a step. Then a double again. Then a half double. Then a slip stitch. As you can see, I just went right into the back. But now we're at the end of the round, so just go ahead and stick it right here. That way we can start in this next loop with a half double, and then a double, then another half double, and then a slip stitch. Just gonna go right into that main body with it. Okay, and this way you'll have two long arches and one little arch to kind of mimic how it looks in Minecraft. Then you'll cut, and we'll tie a knot right here. So just pull it through, and then pull that end through the loop. Okay. Got a little bit of the fuzz. Okay, and I'll pull it through this one to do my knot. And just pull nice and tight. Not enough to break, but just tight as you can. And then we'll do 2 knots. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Now it is completely done. We've added all of our finishing touches, unless you want to give it a little hat. But yep, that's the end of the pattern. You guys will have to let me know how your allays came out. Bye-bye.